that wrestling is predetermined and meant to be sports entertainment, sometimes when you do get a finish of a certain match, something like berries inside of your tum-tum, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually mad. That's a good thing, because any kind of entertainment you do watch should make you feel emotional. Just don't go crazy. And given recent events, well, here's 10 times audiences did see a finish and thought to themselves, I am peeved. Attend Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle 2024. So this is what inspired this list, and yes, when it comes to Drew, he does not like coming home to his home aisles when it comes to wrestling. It never goes well for the guy. Most recent of these did come at the Clash of the Castle 2024 pay-per-view, premium live event in June, because just as he was about to beat Damian Priest and become the World Heavyweight Champion, he got screwed by none other than CM Punk. Now the fans totally lost it, which was the point. If you go on social media and you watch some of the clips, this isn't individuals going, you little scamp. It's genuine rage and it's genuine anger, with some folk even saying, that's it, I'm done with WWE. They also said some very naughty words and people thought this was a really stupid idea, and look, I totally get it. If you paid your hard-earned money and you are a Scottish person and you want to see your Scottish hero win and you don't get that, of course it's gonna make you upset in your tootsie toes. Now once again, I struggle to get too frustrated with it because I've already talked about this. I just like emotion in my wrestling, but it is something that companies have to be careful with. You don't want to scare off people forever. I mean, that's essentially what WCW did. And here we are in 2024, and some people still aren't over it. But I'm Drew McIntyre at Clash of the Castle 2022. And I do believe this may tie in. So if we do go back to 2022, it was the same chat with people going, oh, well, Drew McIntyre, he's coming back to the British Isles. Of course, he's going to be the one to defeat Roman Reigns. He wasn't. This time it was done in a fake hometown of Wales, because WWE didn't go to Scotland, so they were desperate to pretend that Wales and Scotland are one and the same, which they are not, by the way. Just as Drew was about to be victorious, Solo Sikoa made his debut on the main roster, and he murked him. So this does kind of sum up the anger when it comes to the 2024 version, because we just did a copy and paste. But actually, when you take a step back and take a breath, I do kind of feel like Drew McIntyre has taken all of these moments and all the events and tied it into his character. Right now, he's one of the most interesting people on TV. I do want him to get his moment soon, though, because I tell you, if we do it for a third time, well, you know the phrase, then you're out. Number 8, the 2019 Hell in a Cell. The 2019 Hell in a Cell match between Seth Rollins and The Fiend. This did not go well. Somewhat ironically, I did watch this from a hotel in Scotland, as I probably looked out the window and went, man, Drew McIntyre, you're gonna get screwed soon. And even I face-palmed after this, and I try and be a positive Pete. It was not well thought out at all. And the big question is, why is WWE's Ultimate Death Match ending in a non-finish? That's the whole point of the Hell in a Cell. You can do whatever the flub you want, apart from apparently used toolboxes. Even former writers have admitted that Vince McMahon loved this reaction because he loves causing chaos, and there was even a tale about Vic Joseph, who was the commentator at the time, who kind of felt like he'd been hung out to dry. Why does he have to sit out here while everybody boos? The whole thing was so damn messy that Seth Rollins had to give up his babyface run and go heel. And once again, you go on social media and YouTube, and you can see people talking about this after the pay-per-view premium live event was done. They really were not happy. And it is mainly because none of this did make sense. It was the birth of 2 + 2 = potato, and again, a toolbox. And now every time I see a toolbox on wrestling, I feel the fear deep down in my knees. So yeah, let's never do this again. It was pretty shite. Number 7, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34. And this wasn't good either, basically for the exact same reason. Sheesh. But WWE, by hook or by crook, had decided that Roman Reigns was gonna be their guy when we got to WrestleMania 34 and they got cold feet. And this was mostly because everybody and their dog at Mania 34 was going, fine, okay, we're gonna make Roman Reigns the champion, let's just do it, and we can dive into the thing. When yeah, the powers that be went, man, what if we cause a riot here? Let's just have Brock Lesnar retain and extend this thing out way longer than it needs to be. Now while I'm sure they thought everyone was gonna go, oh my gosh, what a wonderful surprise, it didn't work. And fans were just livid, because like, please, we know what you're going to do. Why can't you just get it done and end this pain? It meant despite fighting against it, the show of shows still ended with a bunch of people booing and going onto Twitter and going, man, this sucks. And even Brock was annoyed at this. You would have seen the footage. When he walked through the gorilla position, he took his championship and he threw it in the face of Vince McMahon. It really did leave a bad taste in people's mouths too, and I think this night was another reason it took so long to rehab Roman, because we just continued to go left, right, and up when everybody just wanted to go down. I don't know what that means, but sometimes just make the fans happy, even if you have put yourself in a stupid position. Still begs the question why somebody didn't go, let's just turn the man heel. We've talked about that before. Number 6, Bash at the Beach, 1996. So finally, we get to one where the fans were meant to be annoyed. Thank goodness. But in 1996, WCW realized that the Hulk Hogan train was running out of steam, so there's only one thing left to do. We gotta turn this guy heel. Now, Hulk agreed with this as well, but quite clearly he was scared, which is why there was a bunch of rumors at the time that if he did chicken out, well, we'd just bring in Sting instead. Thankfully, we got to the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view and everything was good to go, so as Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, the Outsiders, were laying waste to the Macho Man Randy Savage, out came Mr. Hulkamania, and just when it looked like he was gonna save his oldest friend, he dropped the leg on Savage, and nobody could believe it, Hulk Hogan had turned villain. You can see how much it enraged everybody too, because the fans just pelted the ring with garbage, and why we should never ask this to happen again. It does make for a great visual, and again, this was the utter point. It also allowed Hulk to have a career resurgence, which essentially doubled down on this idea that he had made a huge impact when it came to professional wrestling. I know it's a bit dicey now these days for obvious reasons, but yeah. Back in the mid-90s, this was a total home run. Number 5, WCW Starcade 97. But this wasn't. It's only a year later, and WCW lost their mind. Because really ever since Bash at the Beach, Sting had been watching on. He was like, I don't enjoy the direction of travel here. When he got rid of the colourful face paint, he started to paint his face black and white, and basically for an entire year, he just hid up in the rafters, watching and not doing much of anything. That was super weird, but it made it work, because oh my gosh, fans bought into this and then some. And then before Starcade, where he did descend from the rafters and he whooped the NWO's ass, well, you can see it for yourself, people absolutely lose it. All we had to do was get to Starcade and have the Icon win. And of course we didn't do it. Because for whatever reason, Hulk Hogan decided earlier in that day that Sting's head wasn't in the game. And if that was true, why did you let him wrestle to begin with? When we came up with this convoluted finish, when we were meant to have a fast count, but apparently Hogan had gone to referee Nick Patrick and said, don't actually do the fast count. When Bret Hart made his debut in WCW and he was like, oh man, I'm not having a screw job. I was but a fetus watching this, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just wanted Sting to win. I still totally believe the best way to have done this was that Sting just ran through Hogan in 5 minutes, but instead, this got so confusing, it did nothing for anyone, and surprise, surprise, not only did it upset the fans, you can go on forums right now, people still talk about it. I'll tell you why that happened, because we took 12 months of work, we flushed it down the toilet. And people wonder why WCW died. Number 4, the 2014 Royal Rumble and the 2015 Rumble. The Roman Reigns days. We're back. Now again, it's not his fault because Roman was well aware what he should be doing, e.g. become a bad guy. But yeah, during this period, we were double down, so we just had to go with this. It's not like WWE didn't know this either. I mean, we just talked about it, but this is when we get to 2014, and because they didn't want Daniel Bryan to cause any friction, he just wasn't booked in the Royal Rumble, which means when we got to number 30, we got the countdown, 3, 2, 1, the entire crowd thought they were gonna get the yes man, and when poor Rey Mysterio came out, he got booed. And not because he was Rey Mysterio, but because he wasn't Daniel Bryan. Fast forward to 2015 and nobody had left because we did it again, when this time it was The Rock coming out to try and help Reigns win the Rumble, which he did do. And then what did Philadelphia do? Boo, boo. They didn't care who was in the ring, they didn't want to see this, and yet we gave it to him anyway. So sometimes just change the plan. This is why I'm quite excited about the new era of WWE. I don't think they would do this again, which means we're going to get to the good stuff far quicker than we should do. Number 3, Vader versus Antonio Inoki in New Japan in 1987. Now, if you miss wrestling feeling real, make sure you go back to Sumo Hall in 1987. Because New Japan promoter Antonio Inoki was looking at the numbers and business and realized, man, we need something to light a fire under this thing. When he came up with a good idea. This was Big Van Vader, who was just going to be like a mythical creature who would storm to the ring and absolutely destroy anybody in his way, the hope being the fans would buy into this and be like, oh my gosh, he's terrifying, who can defeat him? Eventually they settled on one Leon White, as I'm sure you did know. And even if you had handed these plans to the fans beforehand, I don't actually think they would have believed. So on the 27th of December, Vader did turn up, and the first thing he did was challenge champion Antonio Inoki to a fight. and as had been the way for ages, okay, sure, and Nakey will get his butt whipped a little bit, but eventually he'll be fine. And if you do watch this today, you can even feel the confusion, because why are we debuting this beast in such a simple way? When actually it became very complicated, and he beat Antonio. I tell you, the Japanese fan base melted down. I mean, basically in a matter of seconds, Vader had picked up this guy, slammed him, and defeated him, which was not only Inoki's first loss in 2 years, but it was only his second loss in a decade. People were stunned. It got even worse because Vader then beat him up after this match. It was quite brutal. This is where the crowd had had enough. They totally went absolutely crazy, and they started to rip up the place. Some even set fire to the seats, which begged the question where they got the flames from to begin with, as word got to Vader, listen bro, you're gonna have to run out of here, otherwise you may not make it. It took police over an hour to calm this down, and the owner of the sumo hall banned NJPW for 2 years, because of course you would. You'd be like, listen, we can't trust you anymore, you almost killed our arena. It is a great lesson in how you cause a fuss though. Like I say, even if you do watch it today, even though it is 2024, you will have a good old time. Number 2, Ric Flair versus Jack Vonino. It is back to January 7th, 1982 for this one, and another time when the audience wanted blood. It was from the Dominican Republic, as local hero Jack Vonino did take on Ric Flair. This was a huge deal at the time because the Nature Boy was the NWA World Heavyweights Champion. The word has always been 14,000 people piled into a building to see this, even though apparently the arena could only hold 11,000. But Flair has even told stories when he was trying to get to the place he couldn't because there was just too many individuals. Just goes to show the amount of local support that Jack did have, which is why when his arch nemesis Relampago Hernandez did get involved, everyone was like, no, please don't do it. Now it is only fair to point out this is all hearsay because there's no footage of this, and if you do try and research it, all you kind of see is a pile driver by Vonino onto Flair, and the referee seems to count 3, but he also doesn't count 3 and seems to indicate that it was a time limit draw. This actually does tie in. The whole thing had kind of gone sideways. Because Flair himself has always claimed that he called a fast one here, so that when he was trapped in the sleeper, he passed out, so fans would think that Jack had become a champion. Because halfway through this thing, he was like, oh my gosh, if I win and I tried to leave, well, I'm not going to be able to, because they're going to stick me up on a stick. I probably could have come up with better words for that. He just had this sense that the fans were going to lose it, and again, if we go back to Rick's own stories, apparently they did this anyway, and the entirety of the crowd started to brawl with the police. I suppose this came down to the fact that this didn't really have a finish, so even though Jack Vonino was claiming to be the champion, it didn't really make sense, and once again, it took forever to calm this down. I mean, the fact that soon after this, all of a sudden it was just announced that Ric Flair was the heavyweight champion again, well, that does give some credence to Ric Flair's story. But yeah, once more, go on the internet, have a watch of this. All I do know is that the Nature Boy probably made the right call, otherwise he would have been stabbed in the face. Number 1, Larry Zbyszko turns on Bruno. So this one was out of control. And it really does show you how popular Bruno Sammartino was back in the day. Because sheesh, if you double-crossed him, everybody was gonna buy into it hook, line, and sinker. Larry Zbyszko picked up on this too, so he dove in with both feet, because here was his problem. He was sick and tired of being called the apprentice to Bruno Sammartino, and the only way he was gonna get over this if he finally took on his mentor in a match and beat him. It was basically Star Wars. Hence he challenged Sammartino to a friendly match just to see who was the better man, when Bruno turned to him and said, no, we are too close of friends. I'd never be able to forgive myself if our relationship was dead. And then became very Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker to tie it into a modern feud, because Larry did every single thing he could do, including saying to Sammartino, well, I don't think I can carry on with my own career if you don't want to do this, so if the answer is no, I'm going to walk away into the sunset. Now, of course, Bruno didn't want that, so eventually he did agree when they did have this match. And for a while there, it was pretty decent, but of course, Sammartino was outworking him in every single moment, which is when Larry got a chair, and man, he just totally wrecked this guy. And once more, you can see this. Nobody could believe it. He left Sammartino a bloody mess too, which given the time period was doubly shocking, and any single time the WWF did re-air this, they treated it like we'd just seen a crime. The greater fan base was so annoyed about this too, no matter what locker rooms Zbyszko did go to, they would try and attack him. Now once again, it is old school wrestling, but so many people have told this story, I think there's an element of truth to it. Larry also made the case that someone tried to stab him at one point, but he was lucky to get away, so I implore you today to go and watch this footage and just go and look at the people's faces in the crowd. When Zbyszko does have that chair, there are a couple of kids whose jaws are on the floor because their whole childhood had just been broken. There's probably an angle we could bring back today if you could find the right wrestlers, but more importantly, I bet there's loads of examples when fans did basically want to riot, let me know in the comments below. Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe, and click the video on the screen, which is me talking to you about more professional wrestling. I tried to make it interesting, but sometimes I do fail. Have a great day, my friends. See you soon.